Senator Tammy Baldwin is a Democrat from Wisconsin, and U.S. Congressman Tim Ryan is a Democrat from Ohio. Both represent states that voted for Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton. Senator first and then Congressman, what do you make of the fact of this vote? This new CBO report just out late today that 23 million people will basically be dropped from health care coverage if the Senate does what the House did and pass the Republican bill.
Well, certainly it's devastating, devastating to the heartland, devastating to the country. And frankly, we didn't need the Congressional Budget Office score in order to know that what the House passed would result in people having to pay more for less care while they still do this big tax giveaway to the very wealthy. And it's really reprehensible. What I hope in the Senate is that we toss the House-passed bill aside and start anew, and I want to see us do that in a bipartisan fashion. Doesn't look like we've gotten out to a good start on that point, but I think we must if we're really going to strengthen our health care system for everyone and stop this partisan nonsense.
Let me go to Congressman Ryan. How does a Republican go to any district in the country, I don't care if it's Utah, Alaska, the most conservative states, and say to the people, what I'm going to do is cut people out of health care, but I'm going to get rid of the estate tax and the alternative minimum tax, and I'm going to make sure the really rich, who can give their kids more than $5 million, I'm going to let them keep the building the prosperity of their families in the long, generational by generational way, and also, meanwhile, in the short term, cut people's health care. I don't know how you sell that at home.
Well, it doesn't work, and that's why Donald Trump didn't campaign on that. He campaigned on the complete opposite, expanding coverage, more affordable, more people would be covered, because the Republican argument, as you stated it, doesn't work. But from what I heard from the clip in the introduction is that there's a very high level of delusion in the Republican caucus, both House and Senate, if they think that this bill is somehow what the American people want. You're telling somebody's grandmother that they're not going to be able to get their nursing home paid for. You're telling someone's dad that they're not going to be able to get screening and all the rest. This hits home in a way that Medicare or Medicaid or the cuts in general. When the American people see what happens if this bill passes, it's dreadful, and they will be surprised because Donald Trump said the complete opposite during his entire campaign in Wisconsin and Ohio.
Congressman, one thing I like about you and a few other members is you know what happens, and the senator too. You know what happens on the ground level. Medicaid is for middle-class people who don't have the money to pay for long-term care. Long-term care is a chronic cost. You're shaking your head, Senator. I want you to talk about this. Medicaid is for people who have to go to a folks' home because they can't take care of themselves, or even their kids can't take care of them, and that money comes from people basically making themselves impoverished to make them eligible for it. That's what goes on.
It's absolutely vital, and I want to talk about those Medicaid cuts, because one thing that the CBO score doesn't contemplate is Trump's budget that we received yesterday, where there are even deeper cuts to Medicaid than are already contained in the House-passed bill, which was bad enough by capping and cutting Medicaid. But it's exactly what poor families and middle-class families rely on if a loved one needs to be in nursing care. It's also the lifeblood of rural hospitals. I have a rural state, and there are hospitals that would be at risk of closure if Medicaid weren't there. And, you know, if we're talking about adequate access, not just to insurance, but to care, we can't afford to see those rural sites close, never mention unemployment that would cause, because rural hospitals are often the biggest employer in a county. So that, and then children's health care cut in Trump's budget on top of the Medicaid impact for children. Who would cut health care to children?
Well, I know somebody. Let me get back to Congressman Ryan. You know, we're looking at pictures. You can't see them. I'm looking at them. Beautiful pictures of the Trump family. They're always very attractive. They're all wearing the best new styles from Milan or whatever. They all look great. Over there with the right, what do you call it, approach to the pontiff. At the meantime, back home here, we're finding out that they're cutting the poor people and the old people. I don't know. Is that square with you? With the voters, does it square with them?
Well, 12 years of Catholic school for me, Chris, and I never learned that in the New Testament or the social gospel. A lot of the Christian conservatives that are supporting this and touting it look, we have a responsibility as a society to take care of the least among us, and there are poor people who need to have access to health care. You know, I don't care if you have a poverty mindset or a winner's mentality, you need health care. And this has an economic impact, too, because if you don't have health care and you get sick and you can't get better and you start missing work, 2-3 days go by, your butt may get fired, and that's the economic reality for people at home. And you talk about public schools and kids who don't have health care that go into our public school system. Yeah, your kid may have health care, but the kid sneezing on them, sitting in the desk right next to him, may not. And that's how we have problems and get other people sick. We're all in this together. We all should have health care. We're a wealthy country. We can make this system work. I hope Senator Baldwin and others can sit down in the Senate and figure out some compromise that would fix 2 or 3 of the main issues in Obamacare, and let's move forward as a country.
Okay.
But to cut people loose, 23 million, you're on your own, while tax cuts go to the wealthiest in the country, that doesn't sit right with people in Ohio, people that voted for Donald Trump.
You're speaking from the encyclical of Leo XIII, Rerum Novarum, about new things. Thank you for bringing us up to date on what the Catholic doctrine is about helping poor people. Thank you so much. And the new Pope, Francis, completely subscribes to that thing. Anyway, Senator Tammy Baldwin, it's great always having you on.